Catherine knows more about certain categories of investing than any person I've ever met, and categories of investing that other people are scared to death of. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Inside Game podcast. Every episode, we like to tell a little story about some little secret, some inside thing that happened that nobody else knows about, some story that nobody's quite sure of. As always, I'm here with my host, Mr. Derrick Brooks. You know, Catherine is our guest. I'm going to introduce you. You know, Derrick's my brother.
Love that.
Yeah, he's literally
biological.
Biological brother.
Of course.
Yeah. Our mom's a kind of unique person. And, you know, growing up with him was
biracial.
Top half.
Yeah.
Bottom half.
Growing up with him was a little difficult.
How so?
But we've wanted to do this podcast for years, and so we've been doing it. And, you know, it's weird about him. He doesn't drink. I drink, though. But I didn't have the kind of alcohol you want. But I want to let you know that we have a very special guest today. My special guest is Catherine, and I want to show you Catherine. By the way, I know I have your name misspelled, but I left it this way because I never ever wanted to change it. Because I have you in my cell phone in a very, very special way. So here's the text message between us about to get in here. And what is your name inside of my cell phone?
Catherine Vice.
It literally says Catharine Vice. And I want to tell you why it says
honored.
Catherine Vice. Catherine runs the Vice Fund. It is probably one of the most bullpen-aligned funds there could possibly be. Catherine invests in anything Vice. With that, tell us a little bit about your venture fund, Catherine.
So the fund is actually called Vice Ventures, for those who are also putting me in their phone right now. We're an early stage fund. We invest in everything that people love to do. I am coining it as moments of joy. So we're the most active nicotine and tobacco investors in the US. We are cannabis investors, we're gambling, betting, caffeine, we love caffeine. Anything that's high repeat and high margin.
You got that, Brooks? High repeat,
and
high
high margin.
Does that mean addictive?
Yeah.
Well, I like to call it a biological subscription.
Very good. You're good at marketing. Biological subscription.
I should put that on the bottle.
Give us one or two of the craziest things that when mom asks you, when mom asks me and Derrick what we did during the day, what's the one where you're like, boy, can I even tell mom I did this one?
Definitely the first pitch I ever took. It was a sex robot, self-lubricating, and the hair grew. And you could rent it and then return it when you're done with it. So obviously my first question was about hygiene, because who is washing these sex robots? And that was probably the craziest call I've ever been on. Only because they were so passionate. They were so passionate about these sex robot rentals.
There's so much to unpack.
Not buy to own though, rent.
Self-lubricating obviously jumps right out at you.
I mean, I was like, do you press a button to have it self-lubricate? Like, I have so many questions that have yet to be answered.
That is probably my biggest question.
And it's an ex-military guy who said that people were lonely and they could have used sex robots while he was on his journey.
Where's he find the lube?
I mean, what kind of lube?
Who keeps putting it in?
You're a little too excited about this. Wait.
I'm lost at the
Now,
self-lubricating.
we got to ask Catherine an important question first, though.
Why'd they come to her?
No. Did you invest in the company? She said she heard a pitch. She didn't say I invested in. She said I heard a pitch.
And guys, I have it.
So Catherine, are you an investor?
I am not. It was not high repeat enough. There were not enough rentals going out.
So it didn't self-lube.
Right. Or it didn't frequently enough. That's fascinating, Brooke. See, you were getting excited. You thought you were going to learn something. She said no to the pitch.
Yeah.
Give us the craziest one you actually invested in.
Ooh, well, I don't want to use the word crazy because I don't want to offend any of my portfolio companies.
What's the most?
Interesting.
Let's see. What's the euphemism we're going to use? What's the one that's the most politically incorrect?
Oh, great question. Definitely this company called Lucy. They started with nicotine gums. They then launched into nicotine pouches, and they're all different types of flavors. They're very high strengths. Us in the nicotine world, you know, we're all get a little anxious about the strengths and the flavors in general. But the FDA recently authorized all 40 PMTAs, which is an application for nicotine, for ZYNs. all flavors, all strengths. So hopefully it will be significantly less stigmatized going forward.
Interesting. So I'm from the inner city of Philadelphia. And do you know what a Lucy is in the inner city of Philadelphia?
I mean, I'm from New York City, and a Lucy is a loose cigarette,
Yes,
for sure.
it is. Yes, it is. We know.
So as much as we're having a little bit of fun with this, the approvals of those 40 applications, though, is actually a pretty big deal.
Huge.
Like there's actually real political implications to this. There's sociological implications to this. So Catherine, run us through what that actually means. Obviously, it will benefit your company, Lucy, but talk to us about what the government has just said by approving those applications.
So let's start from the very beginning. Throughout the world, there's 1 billion smokers. Of that 1 billion, around 60 to 70% try to quit every year. And of that 60 to 70%, between 4 and 7 succeed. So there's a huge need, health-wise, for public health, like vice aside, for public health to have reduced harm nicotine products. And Zyn pouches, although they are addictive because nicotine is addictive, there is not one scientist in the history of the world that has been able to prove that nicotine causes cancer. And because of that, the FDA found it in the benefit of public health to be able to sell these Zyn pouches. They're the first of their kind to be authorized. They were first used in Sweden. It's from the company Swedish Match. And there's almost no smokers at all in Sweden because of how beneficial these products are. And the PMTA process, actually, which stands for pre-market tobacco application, all of it comes down basically to Juul. So which is crazy. So basically, the FDA and the Center for Tobacco Products, which, by the way, is funded by user fees for cigarettes, not by any oral products or by the taxpayer. Huh. Yeah. They basically came out and they put a pause on the market after Juul blew up, and they said that they want all products to be authorized. And if you were on the market before August 8th, 2016, you are deemed legal to sell in the United States until you get an authorization or a marketing denial order. So there's only a handful of those companies that were on the market prior to it's called the deeming rule. And it's really important as an investor to be invested in one of those companies because they're legally allowed to be on the market, and unlike any other nicotine product that has come out after that date.
Catherine knows more about this stuff than it's amazing. Catherine knows more about certain categories of investing than any person I've ever met, and categories of investing that other people are scared to death of. You know, we had a limited partner one time who invested in our fund, and I think the limited partner said something to us like, as long as you aren't selling firearms to children. I think that was because they knew that, you know, there'd be categories of stuff that they wanted exposure. Because if you run a big pension fund or you are a big college endowment, you actually want exposure to some of this stuff because you need to diversify into to the furthest reaches of humanity. Is there a line that you have? Because this is something I get asked I've really never done the tobacco. We did a little bit of cannabis. Haven't done any sex robots either.
I think that's the line.
It might. Brooks might. Brooks is definitely, he lit up.
That might be the line.
What are some of your guidelines, though, Catherine? I mean, there are definitely some pitches that come into the office, and you as a person who calls yourself Vice Ventures, there's some stuff that's over the line for you.
Absolutely.
And so give me some examples of that, and how do you deal with that when you're the person that person pitches and you're like, well, if Catherine thinks it's over the line, then I'm screwed.
So first and foremost, we are petrified with capital P of any products that looks like they could market to children or be used by children.
Got it.
No, first and foremost. Second of all, we were pitched on a company, which I'm sure you also saw this business, that was a slots company that was targeting middle-aged, lonely women. And
I know the pitch.
Yes, exactly.
I know the pitch well.
Yep. And that is a company that we hung up the phone after 4 minutes because that is predatory and that should not be allowed. Slots.
Like slots, like gambling?
On your phone. I know the company. The company's doing very well, just FYI. And
I'm sure they are.
By the way, we're not surprised that the company's doing very well. Neither of us are investors, but that's interesting. So when it's to children, or it's predatory?
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting.
Or toxic, or pretending to have health benefits that don't actually exist. or just filled with misinformation, right? Because these are adult products, and using these products need to be an adult choice.
So you determine predatory when they talk about their target market.
Absolutely, or their marketing tactics. So similar to saying like, oh, it's all natural, right? Like it's one thing if you're selling yogurt and you're claiming all natural. It's another thing if you're selling nicotine. So we take that incredibly seriously, and we're petrified of those scenarios.
Did you actually hang up the phone after 4 minutes?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, my pitches, I'm on the phone between 4 and 7 minutes, 4 and 8 minutes maybe. I take my time very seriously, and if I'm not interested, I'm not going to pretend that I'm interested. I mean, I probably hurt people's feelings, but there's worse things out there. But it's a harsh world.
I love this. I love this tactic. You learn something every day, and I could use this in sports. When I'm dealing with players I no longer want to deal with, I could say, listen, there are worse things out there than what's about to happen in 4, 3, 2.
Brooks,
I just say I'm not interested in learning more. Thank you so much for the time. I wish you the best of luck.
It's awesome.
Brooks, you learned something from Catherine today.
Duly noted.
Brooks's day job. Brooks is a super agent to a lot of stars. He does investing with me. We do all sorts of crazy shit together.
Besides being brothers.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Well,
Well,
when you grow up,
organic.
You need to, it's just like you can't pick your relatives. I mean, you just can't.
But you can be on a podcast with them.
Yeah, you can elect to do a podcast with your brother. Yeah, that we've definitely determined.
One thing, this is off topic, but back to me.
Oh no, we like off topic. No, we definitely want off topic.
Can't get more off topic than
can't.
self-lubricating.
That's on topic.
Right. Okay. All right, Catherine. Off topic. I can't wait to see where this goes. Go.
It's gonna be a fun one. So a lot of people don't know this, but it's really important to me, so I want all listeners to be educated on this. Every year, there's 4.5 trillion cigarette butts that are thrown away all across the globe. And cigarette butts have arsenic, cadmium, lead, and nicotine, which is an insecticide. And they never, ever, ever biodegrade, and right now they're actually piling up within our food streams. So it's really important if you pick up that cigarette to think about what it does for everybody else around you. That's the program.
Oh, interesting. So that was your PSA on why cigarettes are bad and Lucy's good. Got it. No, I like this. On brand. You like that?
I mean, the thing is that the person can choose to use the product. The environment doesn't have that option.
In the early days of FanDuel, there were real questions about the legality of fantasy sports. It was a gray area. And one of the first states to line up against us was the state of Nevada. And the guy in the state of Nevada who was behind it was a political ally of mine named Sheldon Adelson. Sheldon Adelson owns the Venetian. Sheldon passed away a few years ago. Both of the Adelsons, I always enjoyed their company. But I must admit, I was very annoyed when he lined up against FanDuel operating in the state of Nevada, because he draped himself in we cannot have proliferation of gambling. Yes, says the largest casino owner in the state of Nevada. I must admit, like that was a little bit of a bridge too far. Lucy versus the cigarette butts.
Oh, I'm environment first, of course.
As I said, I love you. It was actually a compliment. It was not an insult.
Oh, a compliment. Thank you so much for your compliment.
Yeah. I liked what I always got a kick out of was the way that the warnings got nastier and nastier, right? They were kind of like, cigarettes can be bad for your health, and then they were cigarette, and then they were, this will probably kill you is basically what's on the box.
So it's actually really funny you bring that up.
Yeah.
Because the data shows that those warnings don't stop people from smoking.
Of course they don't. Obviously they don't. Literally, they clearly
but
can't
what stops
possibly.
them from smoking is encouraging them to quit. So in some countries, it actually says, you can do it. We believe in you. You can stop smoking.
Interesting. I didn't know that part of it.
They put that on the cigarette?
Yes.
Wow.
Wow. That
And
actually
the FDA knows this. The FDA has
and
all
they
this
refuse
data.
to change the language. Huh. What else are you excited about, Catherine? Give Derrick another thing or two to go home and daydream about. I need you to do that for me.
So we are actually in this deal together, but I'm incredibly opportunistic about this. It's called Qnovia, and it's the first vaporizer that has no heating or combustion element, which means it does not release Class A carcinogens, which means it doesn't cause cancer. And that technology is now looking to go into different substances. And I'm very, very excited about that. And I think the future of inhalation is obviously not killing your customer.
Oh, that's right. I'm a personal investor.
You are.
I'm a personal investor in this.
It's doing well.
It's go into the next level of detail because I think
it's a vapor.
you used a little too much jargon for our not so sophisticated audience. And trust me,
Don't
they're
tell
not.
your audience
they're-
that.
oh, well, you don't know who's in the audience. Actually, we don't even know who the hell is in the audience. Anybody who's watching this, I mean, what? So we're gonna assume least common denominator here.
Someone's going to write in the comments, I knew that about cigarette butts.
Right, you're gonna be like, I knew it, Catherine. I knew it was 5.63 trillion in 1994.
Yeah, actually.
Come on, who the hell do you think you
Already
are?
knew it.
Oh my God, I'm dead.
All right, so a little slower this time for the cheap seats.
So
Describe
it's the
the new
first,
tech.
Think of any type of vape, a nicotine vape, a cannabis vape, a vaporizer, something that you inhale. It is the first inhalation system that doesn't use any combustion, so it doesn't light it on fire, and there's no heating element to turn it into a vapor. The human data is fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is it? So I've never smoked. I've never vaped, right? What is the joy of smoking or vaping with the fire as opposed to no fire?
So it depends on the time of day, actually. So people who are very much addicted to smoking, their best hit is the throat hit first thing in the morning. It scientifically shows it releases something in your brain, and the morning is the best. For people who don't have that level of addiction, they very much enjoy coffee and nicotine, right? Because that combination just goes hand in hand really well.
Different times a day, cigarettes and coffee go great together. So let's talk about the non-combustible version.
Good job.
The non-combustible version. And what itch does that scratch, and which time of day does that scratch it best, I guess, Brooks?
Yeah, so the data actually isn't clear because it's a newer technology. Cigarettes have been around for a very, very long time. Nicotine vaporizers have not. But if we're going to talk about nicotine vaporizers, one thing that a lot of people don't know is how terrible they are for the environment. And I know you're going to laugh at me for this, but it's a serious, serious problem. So every minute there's 150 vapes, nicotine vapes that are thrown away in the kitchen trash. Those vapes have reusable lithium-ion batteries.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's as bad as it gets.
And over a 1-year period, there's enough lithium-ion that is thrown away to fuel over 6,000 Teslas. 6,000 Teslas just sitting in kitchen trashes. So it's really important that you don't use a disposable vape. And hopefully we'll have some type of authorization for Cunovia and people can use that instead, which is a reusable product.
I think Catherine definitely wins for the smartest guest we've ever had on. The bar's kind of low right now, but I think she's definitely killing it right now in terms of knowledge drop.
I hope everybody hears that.
Yeah, no, I definitely am gonna.
At least 500 or so.
We're up to that many? We're up to 500 people?
At least 500
Up from
we'll hear
50 last week?
immediately.
Wow, when we get to 5,000, holy hell. We'll have to have a party at your house.
I would love that.
I went to Catherine's Christmas party once. It was odd. I went to Catherine. I personally have never smoked a cigarette or I've never smoked weed. But I can tell you, I was high by accident at Catherine's Christmas party.
I've been in
it was.
this
I definitely now know what it's like to be high by accident. So there we go.
We tell people to come with a pocket full of vices, and some people take that instruction very seriously.
Listen, I am thrilled that we had our special guest, Catherine from Vice Ventures. You know, I don't even know I know your last name. You're just Catherine
I'm just
Vice
Catherine.
to me.
It's
And-
Dockery for those who are curious.
In fairness, I did know that. Catharine Dockery is one of the most delightful people I know. We learned a ton, didn't we?
Very much so.
You learned a ton.
Unbelievable.
Vice Ventures, you want to invest in any of this kind of stuff? She's your girl.
Thank you so much for having me.
And have your stuff ready because she's giving you 4 minutes.
4 minutes, that's right. And if you suck at the end of 4 minutes, she's hanging up on you. She's going, I got the next one. Bam. She's out.